Hello. Before I start on what I told Nick I would talk about, sorry. No, I just wanted to, several of you may know this, but you guys, this group is very close to our hearts. Brent and I were part of the college ministry and had the privilege of leading it for, 10 years plus. Just being here tonight, I've only been here, this is the second time I've been here since you've been at Faith West. And so it's exciting to me to see all the people. It's amazing to me how few of you I know, which is wonderful because that means a lot more people are coming. And I just wanted, it's good to be here. It's good to be back. We love college age. We love this ministry. It was hard to leave this ministry, but it's a whole lot easier because we were leaving it to Nick and Michaela. So I know you appreciate them. I don't know if you appreciate them as much as you ought to. So I will tell you, we are so thankful for them. And don't waste the opportunity that you have to be blessed by their love, their passion, and their discipleship. It would have been very painful to leave this ministry not knowing that it was being turned over to people who had more energy because they're younger and a whole lot of passion and love for you guys. So it's just fun to be back with you. So Nick asked me, shared your verse for this semester, Matthew 5:16, let your light shine so that they could see your good works and give glory to your Father. And I am excited to share with you just some of the ways that God's given me the privilege of using some of the passions and talents that He gave me for His work. And it was good for me to stop and think about it because I don't take enough time to remember where I came from. And that's always amazing to me. But to realize any gifts and abilities I might have come from Him anyway, right? What do you have that you did not receive? Why then do you boast? So anything we have, He gave me. I didn't do anything to get it. Then He gives me His Spirit to empower me and to help me use whatever gift or talent that He gave me. Then He allows me to be part of His purposes that will last for eternity. And then He rewards me for using the gifts that He gave me and empowers me to use. That's cool. And that's our God. So we have a lot to be thankful for. I have a lot to be thankful for. As I thought about what I wanted to share with you about some of the ways God has been changing me, it was important to me to take a few minutes to tell you a little bit about who I was apart from Christ, because I think that will help you understand how big our God is. If He can use me, and I know people say that and you just go, oh, that's funny. No, you don't understand what I was like. If He can use me, He can use anyone. And you will understand specifically why I say that as I stand in front of you speaking in just a minute. So I'm not going to share with you all of how I came to Christ. That's a different testimony. That's not what we're here to talk about. But I want to give you a snapshot into the shy, self-focused girl that God chose to save. From the time I can remember, I have been incredibly focused on what everybody else thought of me, terrified of doing anything that would result in failure in front of people. My way of avoiding humiliation and rejection was that I never put myself out there. Never. My mom remembers she was telling me that when I was 3, I would not answer the phone. She could be in the bathroom and I'm the only one home and she's yelling, answer the phone, and I'm going, I'm scared to it. I would not, because I don't know who's on the other end. What's going to happen? I don't know what's going to happen. Am I going to sound stupid? No. So I would not, from the time I was 3, that's how I have been. I would not do anything if I had the possibility of failing. That's very limiting, by the way. But one area I thought I had control over was my grades. So I'd focus there. But even in that, I was telling my husband this because he's asked us to do an assignment for our small group about what our lives were like at different age times in our life and where God was. It's kind of a counseling assignment, but we're doing group counseling basically in our small group. So as I was filling that out, I said to my husband, I was messed up. Like, I knew I was a mess, but I had not I was messed up. Part of that was, even though I would focus on academics because I believed I could control things there, I purposefully did not study hard, because then if you do fail, it isn't because you're dumb, it's because you didn't try. Somehow that felt like I didn't actually fail because I didn't try. So that was part of my twisted logic. So I didn't do sports because I wasn't sure I'd be good, and it's hard to hide. I went through 6 weeks of PE and never went up to bat, and the teacher never noticed. It can be done. And I'm telling you, you just can't stay in the same spot. You have to move up and down the line. So she sees you moving all the time. And everybody helped me because nobody wanted me to bat anyway, so that worked out really well. So that was me. I would go to great lengths to not have to be out there. I didn't play volleyball with my friends when they all played together because I didn't know if I would be any good. I didn't want to look stupid. I would leave the room and go elsewhere. If things were going to come up where I was afraid I was going to have to get put in front of people, I would just leave. I could be incredibly stubborn. I was offered a scholarship, not just some money, not a full scholarship, but some money for college by a wonderful Rotary Club. The men had me and my family to lunch to give it to me, and I refused to get up and accept the award. Can you say selfish? Rude? I didn't accept it. Someone accepted it on my behalf. Now, talk about drawing attention to yourself. You draw a whole lot more attention to yourself by refusing to get up when you're in a group. But that's the stubbornness and the irrationality and the terror of getting up in front of people. I didn't do it. That's what I was like. So I picked my major in college by looking at the list of requirements, and I found the one that did not require public speaking. And that was the major I picked. And that is what I majored in. So I won't tell you all the other ways, I could go on, but that's who I was. I didn't think a whole lot about any of you because all of my efforts were spent thinking about me. I was actually convinced all of you thought about me, and I was very concerned about what you thought of me. And so I was constantly hiding. I would hide in my room and see how long it took people to notice. So I could feel sorry for myself that nobody cared about me. And when you don't talk to people, people don't notice when you're not there. So it works that way. So that's me. That is who I am. And God in His grace as a freshman in college, and that's an incredibly long story that I won't share, saved me and began to remake me. I have a long way to go, but you are seeing the power of God right here. So for people who didn't know me before, just think, well, she likes to talk in front of people. That's just something she does. That's something God does. That is not something I would do. I literally picked my degree to not have to do this. So this is God. And the fact that I can enjoy it because I get to tell you what God has done, that's a big God. The very first time I spoke in front of people, the woman who led me to Christ asked me to go with her to a church that supported her and share the impact she had had on my life. She led me to Christ. She met with me weekly for 3 years. The woman was my spiritual mother. The least I could do is go and share with people how grateful I was that they supported her so she could be at my school. I said no. I said, I don't do that. I don't speak in front of people. She was an amazing woman. She was very, very patient, but she looked at me and said, what does that mean? So I shared with her that I don't do that. And she said, well, you have to be able to tell people what God has done in your life. So here's what we're going to do. And she wrote it out with me, and I was shaking, and I was terrified. She had me speak to a bunch of women who were probably 90. It was awesome. They probably couldn't even hear me. So she knew. She sent me to the best group she could. It was very kind of her. And she helped me to write out what I was going to say, and in real big letters was my ending. Because she said, you're going to get up there, and you're going to get terrified, and you're not going to know how to get off. And you're going to start stumbling your words, and you'll just keep talking because you won't know how to end. And that happens to people. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but I hate that for them because I understand. And I just want to go, oh, just get off. But they don't know how to stop. So she said, wherever you are, if you just decide I can't do this anymore, say the last sentence that's in really big letters and just get off. So I did. And I lived, and God allowed me to see that I could live doing that. So from that point, it's been an incredibly long journey of faith. Learning to live in the light of my securities in Christ. It's not in you. It's not in what you think of me. I don't need you to like me, although I would like that. I can love you anyway. That was new to me, that because God loves me, I can love you even if you don't like me. And that freed me to risk getting up here and being exposed. And that also allowed me over time to find out more and more of what gifts and abilities God had given me. I would never have known that I enjoyed teaching. Over time, I just started serving wherever I could, wherever I was needed, and that's how I found out where I was gifted. If you had asked me as a new believer where I was gifted, I would not have said in any of the areas where I'm now serving. I got through that time in college. I got my degree in human resource management. Yes, it does not require public speaking. I don't know, except God wanted me to get that degree because I can't explain why you don't have to do that. But I started serving in the college ministry because that's where I had come to Christ. That's where Bev was. She was my anchor for the first few years, and so I was wherever she was. So what I did was complain to her about how unfriendly the people were in the college group, and I'm sure Nick and Michaela get to hear those comments too. So I was that kid sitting around here going, well, they all talk to each other, and they all just say hi to me, and then they walk away. I get it, because I was that one. So I came to her complaining, thinking she'd feel sorry for me. So what she said was, you don't change a group from the outside. If you think it ought to change, you need to get in it, and you're in charge of greeting all the visitors. How do you say no when you've just said how bad the group is about greeting visitors, and then you say, no, I don't want to either? So I did not want to, because that's terrifying. I don't know these people. I don't know what they're going to think of me. Everything I'm terrified of is wrapped up in that one sentence, and I had to do it because I didn't know how to tell her no. So I did. And I learned how rewarding it was to come to CBF. I was in Campus Bible Fellowship, and help someone else feel included and stop thinking about yourself. That was a whole new thing for me. I loved it. After 3 years of doing that, everywhere we went, I noticed I'd be sitting in our college Sunday school class, and it wasn't my job to greet. And if a visitor walks in and sits alone, I can't stand it. I have to go up and sit with them because I can't stand somebody sitting alone. And we still do that. And my husband still does that. And he'll be not happy with you if he sees you sitting with your friends and somebody else is sitting alone. He'll probably come talk to you. But that was ingrained in me just because I had to do it. I worked in a Sunday school class with teenage girls because I knew that I was not gifted in that, and I just wanted to confirm it. Really. I had no desire to work with high school age, and so I said, they need something, I'll do it, and I'll show all of you this is not my thing. So I did, and what I learned was, it was really hard, and I loved those girls. What I learned was the truth of Matthew 7, that where your treasure is, your heart will be also. I still would not tell you that my primary gifting is middle school, high school kids. But I do know that where I invest my treasure, where I invested my energy and my time, my heart followed, and I loved those girls. And God used that time because serving in an area I didn't want to serve just to prove I couldn't do it, with girls that I really didn't initially care about, quite frankly, I had to pray to love one of them in particular because I'm going to tell you, I had nothing for her. So I just started praying, and by the end, I really loved her, but I really didn't initially. But through that time, I had to meet with some of them individually that just had needs, and I came away thinking, I want to help, and I'm not equipped. I don't know what to do for them. And my desire for help and counseling came from teaching a class I didn't want to teach with a bunch of girls I knew I didn't want to teach anyway. And through that, I started thinking about my master's in counseling. Got accepted to get a master's, chose not to, came here instead. Another long story that is God all over it, but we don't have time for that. So I moved up here in 1990 from Florida to get some training in counseling with the idea that I'd go back to Florida to use it at my church. I just haven't gone back yet. So we're still thinking about it. In order to support myself while I was in the training up here at Faith, I got a job in HR at Purdue. Part of my responsibilities was training employees and supervisors. So now I'm teaching for a living. Amazing, yes. So I refused to take a class in speech, and now that's my job. And I was being enabled by God, and I was loving it. I had no idea I would like something like that. I was too terrified to ever try it. So I started doing that. The more I repented, and this will be, I know, a lifelong process, but the more that I repented of my enslavement to myself, Because to quote Pastor Good, our former pastor, I was an approval junkie. I was enslaved to me and to what you thought of me, and I couldn't do anything. And the more I repented of that, the more I was really able to just love people, and the freer I became to just enjoy teaching. So through that venue at Purdue, I started teaching a lot of biblical principles. I was teaching human resource principles, which basically, who knows about humans except the one who made them? So it's all biblical. I took the training they gave me and rewrote it, so I learned a lot about how to write because I would not teach what they gave me because it wasn't true. So I started rewriting things and using biblical principles without the Bible because they don't really like you to quote scripture at Purdue. So I didn't do that. I taught on how to solve problems biblically, but really just correctly. I was always trying to come up with words for biblically, solving problems appropriately. So we did all those things. We taught on how to return good for evil. And I had incredible opportunities to share the gospel at Purdue. Two of my coworkers started asking me questions through another long series of events. At that point, Brent and I were quasi-dating, another long story. But he taught a Bible study in my home to my coworkers, and two of them came to Christ. So that was very exciting, got baptized at our church. Another supervisor, after I taught on positive responses to negative situations, basically how do you return good for evil, biblically, or positively, I had a supervisor come up to me with a lot of questions. I really liked him. Not a believer, but seriously, here's what I had just said to them. Turn the other cheek, basically, and how do you do that when you're not a believer? I'm telling them to do things they cannot do. But they're right, so that's what I taught. And he came up to me after class and he said to me, how am I supposed to do that over and over and over? And I thought, well, I'm only supposed to talk about God if they bring God up. And I'm going to assume that since you asked me that, you're really asking about God because that's the only answer. So I said, well, anytime I do it, I don't always do it. But when I do it by the grace of God. I have no idea how you're going to do it. And that's what I said because I got nothing more. That's what I had. So that's what I told him. And we talked quite a bit. He would come up to me after class, ask questions. Years later, about 3 years ago now, he found me out at Faith. He found Brent, and he asked Brent where I was, and he came and found me to tell me he had come to Christ later and thanked me for answering all those questions. And that was so cool. So he's now part of our church out at Faith. I hadn't seen him in probably 15 years, but he's out there now, so that's great. So, God using HR training of supervisors, because that's what I was trained to do. I also, through that, got skills in interviewing, process mapping, office assessments, other human resource areas, mediation. It was funny. My boss we paid this company thousands of dollars to come in and teach us how to treat each other. And they basically, if you've been around our church, I don't know if you've heard of the 4 rules of communication. It was basically the 4 rules of communication, except you didn't have to be honest and you had to make other people feel good. So they switched those around a little bit. And so when I told her that, she said, do you think your church got it from this company? No. I said, I think the Bible had it first. But she didn't know. So I thought, what an opportunity. So I'm teaching all these things, and I changed those and taught what I knew was true. But I got to do those things, and I had no idea how God would use process mapping, office assessments, interviewing in a ministry. Well, while I was at Purdue, it was my ministry, and lots of opportunities there that I don't have time to share. But since I've left Purdue, I've had the privilege of doing an office assessment for our church and help them do some restructuring. Many years ago I did that. A variety of interviewing. I do not a lot. When I'm asked, I get to help with leading interviews for jobs at the church. I just recently got to draft and teach customer service training to the staff. Which is really cool, because then I get to take the secular things I learned, which were really biblical things, and put the Bible things back in it and teach it at the church. So that's been fun. So I'm using abilities that God developed when I began to get over my own fears, but He developed them at Purdue, and they're benefiting my church. So it's amazing. When I lived enslaved to the fear of man and the desire to exalt myself, because yes, people who are really, really shy are really proud, self-exalting people. I mean, I hate to tell you that, but I was an incredibly shy, proud, self-exalting person, which is why I was shy, because I was so afraid if I went out there I would not be exalted. And that was a nightmare. So my world was very, very small. As God's given me more and more opportunities to trust him, to believe him that he is enough, so I don't need you, now I get to love you. Because I don't need you anymore. Now I'm free to love you. I've had the freedom to step outside myself in a whole lot of areas. I still don't play sports, okay? I haven't quite gotten over that one. So, and I was just learning how to ride a bike when my husband broke his ankle, and then I started having babies, so I still don't even ride a bike, but we're working on that eventually, baby steps. But in other areas, God has grown me a lot. And I get to see the world around me, and I get to have a small part in offering hope to other people who might not be just like I was, but really we're all the same, we just dress it up a little different. And that's what I have found anyway. It's exciting, and it's such a rewarding way to live. So I have no idea where some of you are. I just picture me at your age, because I would not have been up here. I was explaining to my mentor why I don't do that. That's where I was at your age. So I just want to tell you, holding God's hand, going where he wants you to go, you can confidently do whatever he asks. And then you get to be amazed at whatever he chooses to do. And it's pretty amazing. I would just say, taste and see that the Lord is good. If he can do that with me, you didn't know me before, so you don't understand the power of God in my life. So I tried to give you a little bit of a snippet of really who I was, so you would understand it really is God that gets the glory for anything that I get to do. And just thank you for that. Brent, you're not Brent. Nick gave me the opportunity to mention some areas. If you're looking for ways to get outside yourself, use some gifts and abilities and serve, we have a lot of ways. And in our women's ministries, so I don't know if that any men would be interested in this, but we'll even take your help if you really want. Our marketing director needs help, especially with computer geekiness. And I'm like, you know what? This room has got to be filled with that. I'm just thinking, right? So in a really good way. Yes. So she's, because we're trying to do more with video, we're trying to do more on the web, there's a lot, and she knows how to do it, but she's one person. So I'm trying to get her some help. So that's one area. We were looking in the women's ministries for a Faith West liaison. In the college area, someone that would be a liaison to help you get assimilated with women who are not in college. Believe it or not, there is value in knowing girls who are not in college. So we would love to help make that connection. But since I'm over women's ministries, that is some areas that we could use help in. We've got outreach events that we need help putting together and orchestrating. So if there's ways that you would like to serve and get outside yourself, I will put you to work. Just let me know. Okay.
We encourage them. So again, these four of you shared ways you were encouraged or challenged by what Dan shared tonight. And then also this would be an appropriate time if you have questions to ask them questions. Who wants to kick off?
I really love that you're able to enjoy speaking about others, because not only is God gracious enough to give you the ability to speak in front of others, but you can enjoy it because you're God and He's sending you. And I just think that's so cool that God doesn't just make us do things we do, but He lets us enjoy it, and He's perfect like that.
Oh, thank you. Praise the Lord. Yes.
I love how near the beginning you really highlighted how everything came from God, and you said, well, first of all, I don't have any gifts, and the gifts that I have gave me, He empowered me, and He gave me the Spirit to glorify Him. And I thought that was really, and then the rest of your testimony really backed that up. And I thought that what came to my mind was the picture of the clay pot. And I thought that was just a really powerful picture of how, wow, yeah, this is none of us. This is all of us.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Sure. Why?
Just like listening to your testimony, I just like realized how inspiring you were for anybody in this room who hasn't come to faith yet. It's really exciting because like it's an amazing experience, and I just love hearing about your journey. I'd love to come on your weeks. My fashion experience would help with that.
Hey, I'm sure it would.
But yeah, I completely I encourage you to keep talking and coaching and counseling, and it's really inspiring for everybody.
Oh, thank you. Oh, sorry. Over there.
I just appreciate it. Every time I've gotten curious to speak, I love it. I just really appreciate how you highlighted when you were talking about the knowledge strategy. I think this is emphasized in your testimony as well. The needs that younger women have. And older women, that's clearly expressed in the Bible, and it's clearly demonstrated in your testimony. Having somebody who's older than
She did, yes.
and this is to show you this is what you need to do. Not because you want to do it, because you don't want to do it, but because God says you need to do it, and that gives you the desire to do it. So I really appreciate just how crystal clear you brought out that truth from the Bible.
Thank you.
Can you talk a little bit more about, you mentioned the phrase, I don't believe you, so just to take your battle through that, and maybe you might teach it to someone who's really needs these people?
Well, an example, of course, when you're that way with everybody. So even I've been growing in that area, but when Brent and I were first married, I was earlier on in the journey, so still growing in that area, and I recognized early on, when you need someone, you clamor a lot. You want constant reassurance. You want to constantly have them tell you that everything is okay. Are you sorry you're dating me? Are you sorry you married me? There's this constant, because I need you. And I recognized early in our marriage at some point that I was behaving as if I needed Brent. And I remember something that we went through that was not between us, it wasn't a problem between us, but it was just something painful we went through, that I was brought to my knees and recognizing, and I know this sounds really vague because I really can't talk about what it was, but I couldn't go to Brent with this issue. And he knew about it. It wasn't a secret from him, but I couldn't go to him for help. And God really used that. I remember walking. I used to walk and talk to God a lot, and so I'm sure our neighbors thought I was always crying too. So I don't know what they thought. I'm always walking, crying, talking. But so God and I were talking, and I was crying and saying, I know I'm not supposed to need anybody but you. But I feel like I need Brent. But right now, I can't go to anybody but you. And now I'm terrified, and maybe, I don't know if this is the crux of it for others, but I recognized I was terrified to only need God, because what if he wasn't enough? And then I would be utterly hopeless. So I said, I'm scared. I'm scared to only need you, because what if I start that leap of faith and you're not enough? Like, I got nothing. There is nowhere else to go. And as I said it out loud, crying, I said, and I know how dumb that is, because I know the cross happened, so how could that be true and you not be enough? So as I'm saying this, I'm seeing how dumb that is, so I'm jumping. So, and it didn't change me overnight, but it set me on a different path to say, I will not give in to that. And I went back in the house. Brent loved it when I walked, because I always came back a different person than I left. So that was helpful. And so I came back and said to him, we were talking about something, and I was helping him. Instead of trying to get him to help me. And he looked at me and he said, how are you able to do that? Because he knows that's not what I was like. And I said, honey, I can't need you if I'm going to love you. Because loving is giving, needing is taking. And I can't love you. I thought that I needed you so much because I loved you so much. But I needed you because I love me so much. And it was me really coming to terms with, do I believe God that he loves me so much that you guys couldn't add it to me if you tried? You can't give me anything I don't already have. You can't. Brent cannot add to me any love that I don't already have. And it was as I had to believe that, I didn't always feel it. I still don't always feel it. It is a battle. But as I chose to believe it, and my act of faith is then to say, and I say this to people in counseling, pretend like you believe it and act like you would if you actually did believe it. So what would I do if I actually believed I didn't need anybody but God? Well, I'd be giving everybody everything. I don't need anything. Oh, so start doing that. So that's what I did. I just started, I can give to my husband. I do not have to ask him to be there for me right now. He's going through a lot. I will be there for him, and God will be there for me. I just had to start doing it. And so getting up in front of people, I have to pray before I get up there, just love people. In the end, if you say something stupid and they don't like you, that'll be a bummer. But if you loved them, you honored God. That's what you got to do. And so for me, it was acting on the faith, to not wait till I felt it and just choose to believe it by doing it. Prove my belief by doing it, and then the feelings would follow. And the freedom feelings follow later. I don't know if that helps, but... Yes? Feel like we're now in an AA meeting, okay?
I turned 25 this month, so I'm just like, know that I can go home. Second, meeting with you when I was in college. I'm using the gifts that God has given me to be able to counsel and listen and consult others. That's how I approach you. You know, never have really met. That I wanted to meet with her with you to work through time where I was using the tool of others and idolizing people and not God, and that we were able to work together, and that was just huge and kind of a turning point for me. And so that's kind of what I was doing with this because that was that college time was a good time of resistance and unknowns and having to choose yourself. And so what can I do today? So that's something.
Praise the Lord. So you serve in here? That's awesome. She's pretty cool too. You ought to get to know her too. Yes.
I thought it was just a really amazing how he's highlighting how God is taking places that weren't necessarily he's made more from human nature of like trying to avoid public speaking or teaching a class to prove that we couldn't do it and just turning it around and doing something.
Yes. That isn't. We have a good God, don't we? Yeah. Yes. Oh, thank you. Well, and realize that's the Lord, because you know I would never draw attention. That's not me, but He's a big God. Yes.
On top of what Debbie was saying, I'm encouraged by the testimony of how you're able to share everything within that. I've teach non-Christians spiritual principles before, and my struggle was like, is it moralism? If they do it, are they becoming more of a Pharisee? And all that stuff. And so to have that encouragement of, yes, you can teach people if they're right, if they're saying they're proper, they're good, positive. But when they get frustrated and realize I can't do this, then you're able to, I might even be able to share your testimony. I can't do that. And you just say, hey, I've experienced, I've heard of someone who experiences frustration, and this is kind of the response. And so, yeah, you can do it without me. Just invite them to do a relationship with them.
Cool.
I just want to come blank. You are like, the world is okay for people to be shy and like be all about themselves. So like you're just like, oh no, that's it, that's wrong.
That's how I have to talk to me. So sorry you had to hear it.
So true, and like we don't hear that enough. So we think it's okay, but it's not. And so I'm gonna appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's kind of a closing question. So this is more for the ladies, and I'm gonna ask a question on the gas. I know all my mind that
Brave man. Brave.
getting better at this. So for the, I guess the premise of the question is for the guys in the room, like, we're called to be providers. We're called to
right? You know, and that, I think our world has gotten, for women, much more complicated. And I don't mean that that's bad, but it is much more complicated than it used to be. And we're going through this right now with my daughter. We're having lots of conversations with her about what she's going to do. And again, it isn't so much what you do as why you do it. If you believe you have to have, I talked with a relative who said, oh, I could never stay home. I have to have a career. And I thought, wrong. But she doesn't know the Lord. That probably is where she is right now. But to realize it's not that you can't have one, but you don't have to have one. So if I believe I have to have one, I'm already heading off on the wrong path. Now, I don't know that I'm going to be married. I was 28 when I got married. If I had said, I'm only going to learn how to cook and clean, I would have not had anything to cook with or anything to clean. So I really needed a job. So I understand that. And the Lord has used it. And I got my job for all the wrong reasons. I did not pick my career thinking, oh, this will work around a family. But the Lord did. And I'm very grateful for that. But now with a daughter who is a believer before she's making those decisions, we've talked about serving in a variety of ways so that you can find out where God is gifting you, find out what passions He's giving you. You don't always know that till you do something. And then, as she's thinking about what she wants to major in, thinking, am I choosing a degree that I know would hinder my ability to ever be home? Am I going to come out with $100,000 in debt as a doctor, as a friend of mine did, and then said to me, now that I want to get married, I don't have any options? So we have encouraged her not to limit her options like that. I mean, not to pick a career that would require all or nothing all the time. Like a career that if you're out of it for 2 years, you've lost all certification of whatever and you'd have to start completely over, then I would say, it's probably pretty limiting on your options. So there's a whole lot of things I can do, and I don't believe that my identity is tied up in what I do, so I don't have to find the thing. When Brent taught in the college ministry, I don't know if Nick has mentioned this statistic, but was it 80 or 90% of you are not going to work in the area of your degree anyway? Surprise! But so it's like we don't have to find the thing. So I wouldn't pick the thing that would be really limiting. So we talked about, she desires, if the Lord has a husband for her someday, she desires to be able to be a wife. But wouldn't it be great to have some skills that could be a help to him? So she's talked about she loves biology. Well, you could probably do something in biology in a lot of different cities. She also wanted to be a dolphin trainer. A little more limiting, I'm thinking. So we discussed that and my husband said there's probably 3 jobs in that, ever. So she knows that. We tease her about it all the time now. So we're moving away from that, a little more broad, and just saying, serve, find out what your gifts are, find out what you're good at, and then pick degrees that would give you options. So if you're going to provide for yourself, provide for yourself. If you end up married, you've not locked yourself into a hole that you now can't get out of very easily. You know, my friend was not able to be home with her children for probably at least 10 years. And you could say, well, maybe she didn't want to be. Well, in her case, she did want to be, but she didn't have that option. So she limited her options by picking a major that required her to have to work. In her case, because of debt, and sometimes it's because the kind of job it is, you can't step away and come back. So it's been good. We've talked about that since she was little. So she's talked about a variety of different things and said, you know, I could use it this way, or I could use it this way, or if I was home, here's how I could use that, or if I am at work. So that's how we've approached it, is not thinking I have to find the thing, not finding my identity in the thing, realizing God can use me in so many different ways that why would I pick one that limits me so much that later I may regret it? So